So I'm going to have to make sure I put that down as a side effect. And it was a couple of brothers that sent that to me. It wasn't even women. So if you're an iPhone user, go to iTunes podcast and download Suzanne M. Howard. All of the teaching and training is on there. If you are an Android user, I think that's the Samsung platform and all those other people who are still committing sins by not converting over. You can go to Google Podcasts and Spotify. There's a couple more, but I can't remember them all. But wherever you have podcasts at, Suzanne M. Howard is on there, and you can keep up with Sex and the Soul, all of our solution segments, and everything that falls under the umbrella of Soul Detox. So welcome. God bless you. Good evening, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, and all of our podcast subscribers. Good to be with you again tonight. What a beautiful day. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Last Sunday night at 8 o'clock, we discussed I Hate Sex, that there are actually a group of people through trauma or abuses, misunderstandings, rejection, have grown to a place in their lives. Some have even married and then come to the realization that all the years they spent having sex and sharing the best part of themselves, they decided now that they got married and probably to a very good, hopefully God-fearing man or woman, but they decided now that they've given all of their life out sexually. Now that they're married, they just hate sex. So that was a heavy topic last night. It is not done. I'm not going to finish it tonight, but there's a few lessons when I finish this series that I want to go back over at the end, and I want to go in and I want to give you the RX. I want to give you the soul RX, the soul prescription to getting some help in these areas. I got a lot of phone calls. I got a lot of married people calling me that they're all dealing with this. It's the soul RX is what I'm going to give you so that you can actually have some tools and resources in your own life to use to benefit yourself so that you can grow healthy and functional, no matter what trauma and hurts that you have come through, that you survived through. But it's always great to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, which I am not, but I can coach and counsel you in the way that you should go. I use the application of scriptures. I've seen lives change. I've had some clients with me now for 3 years, and they won't let go because they are going through complete healing and deliverance. You know, they come to me at 30, 33 years old. Maybe a couple of them are in their 20s, and we're doing 20 years worth of work, and it's not going to happen in 3 months. It may not even happen in 3 years. You know, it took a while with the woman with the issue of blood. She spent all her money. She went to see all of the greatest physicians. And by the time she got to the healer, she had no money left. And he healed her by her faith, which made her whole. So God bless you. Welcome on with you. Tonight we're talking about the big topic of how sex becomes an addiction. And the subtitle is You're Successful in Business, You're Successful in Ministry, but Insecure. And it has to go with addictions. So welcome on tonight. I am Suzanne M. Howard. I am Apostle Suzanne M. Howard, and I am also a personal development coach and counselor. So I want to do my intro tonight, and then I'm going to ask you some questions from last week, and then we're going to jump right into this week's topic. So tonight, I want you to come with me. I want you to come with me on a journey. And the journey that I'm inviting you to explore is the world of your sexuality in ways that perhaps you never have before. To even consider the power and the beauty that God has poured out over humanity. Your sexual experiences may be as pure as the driven snow, or you may have known enough shame and heartache to fill a book. The good news is that beneath the ashes of your past lies a golden core, the intrinsic, transcendent reality of being created in the very image of God, as he male, she female. If we listen to the longings of the heart God gave us, we can go back to that pure place. The heart God gave us, we will find our way home. So I invite you today on this journey with me. I want to ask a couple of questions in regards to I Hate Sex, the segment from last week. And one of the questions I want you to think about, just ponder. If you put it on the screen, that would be wonderful. If not, just write it down and think about it in your private time or your spare time during the week. If a woman remains single, yet moves from one sexual relationship to another, what will be the impact on her? If a woman remains single, she's single, she's set in the fact that I'm going to be single and I'm just going to move from one sexual relationship to the other, what will be the impact on her? You might recall from the teachings on the initial night, this is our third night, you might recall from the initial night, we talked about how there's no way that you can go tramping around in the Great Barrier Reef and not expect the ecosystem to be affected. It is impossible for you to trample around in there and disrupt what has been put in place to provide for the air and the ocean and the sea life that's attached to that and not expect anything to happen. And it's the same way with our souls. It's the same way with our sexuality. You cannot go tramping around and think that you are not going to affect a greater part of your being. That's why the enemy loves to destroy families, and he loves to put us in indulgence of lust, especially in our sexuality, because he knows the power of sex. He knows the power of our sexuality, and he loves to use it against God. He's using you. He's trying his hardest to use you as a weapon against God in your sexuality. Because for one, he tells us in the beginning in the Word of God that he created them. He, him, she, female. And we're already dealing with the confusions there. And then he tells us that a man should marry his mother, a man should marry his wife and cleave. And in that cleaving, he is to leave his mother and his father. And if you study the word cleave, I had done an intensive study on this. If you study the word cleave, you will find out it's actually a scientific word. It's a biological term. It's a medical term. When you cleave to someone, it's actually a bonding of cells within you. Like when a baby is born, and they place the baby on the mother. There's a reason why they do that. And sometimes what they do nowadays, I believe, is they pull the mother and the father together and they have the child bond with the mother and father together because that's a cleaving. And to us, it's just a hug. But God knows, and he knew even then, that it was greater than just a hug, that there was a biological and a physiological as well as a scientific reason for cleaving. When you cleave with someone, you release a chemical in your body, and it's called oxytocin. And I found out there's a few more that you release, but when I taught it originally, I taught it on the teaching that I had received that you release chemicals, and it's chemicals that can be sensed, they can be smelled. And when the baby's around mom, the baby will sometimes try to gather for the breast of that mom because it can smell the mom's milk in the mom, and that the child has an attachment with mom and dad because right from the beginning, when the child was taken from the womb and embraced by mom and dad, there were molecules. That's the word I was looking for. Molecules that were released. And every time that child or that man or that woman, whoever you cleaved with, because that cleaving is important at birth, but guess what happens when he grows up? When she grows up, God expected you to then cleave to your future, to cleave to your husband, to cleave to your wife. And when you do that, you release molecules that first, this is so good, y'all, that first breaks the molecule bond made with mama. And now it starts a new one, but you cannot break the bond with something former. You cannot break the bond with mom and dad. You cannot break the bond from prior soul ties. You cannot break the bond even if you were a single mom and you bonded with your children. And then you brought a new man into your life and you still have this mindset of your children first, your children first. And I'm not talking about in priority. I'm talking about in order of the household. When you still have your children first, you have still had the cleaving with them. You have to cleave with your future. You have to cleave with your significant other in order for you to break the molecules of the original cleaving with mom and dad and to start the cleaving that's going to last the rest of your life. And that's with your husband or wife. If you have not done that, and it needs to be done continuously, date night is very, very important with someone. It is more than just being treated well and taken out for a night on the town. It is a very important chemical reaction that needs to happen. It is important that he and she falls in love with each other once again, because there is so much temptation and lust in the world, and that bonding, it gives us a greater strength. It gives us a greater grace to endure with our partners until the end, because there is a biological thing happening on the inside of us. Molecules are moving and causing our brain to have signals that I love this person. I like the way this person makes me feel. I want to be around this person every time. And when you don't have that cleave time with your significant other, you are in for a battle for the rest of your life. It is very important to cleave when you are born with your natural parents or those who are taking care of you, but then you have to break that cleaving. And the only way to break that cleaving, people of God, is to cleave with something else. It's the same way you break soul ties. Soul ties are not something so spiritual. Ooh, soul ties are molecules. We just always teach it from this old spiritual standpoint all the time. But the spiritual teaching is much deeper. It involves molecules and chemicals that take effect in our bodies. And it is important to cleave. That's why he says, after a fast, you are to come back to one another. If not, you may find that the enemy's right there in the middle of that fasting season, and I'm trying to do a good thing, and I'm trying to be deep, and I'm fasting for the family, but you're not coming back to your mate. There's no cleaving. So there's no breaking of any former molecules, and there's no forming of the new. You have to form the new in order to break the old. I hope I'm speaking to some wonderful people out here today. You have to. And if you have soul ties going on, what you have to do with that is, even if you're going through a place where now God is calling you to abstain from sex, or you're going to walk in celibacy until you find your mate, or you're going to walk in celibacy until you're delivered from your sexual addictions or any of your addictions, and you want to start with being celibate, you have to form a soul tie with God. And you do that through prayer. You must have serious prayer with God, because this isn't only physical to physical. When you fall in love with God, when the Holy Spirit is a great part of your life, and there's a greater glory of God upon you, and you spend time with prayer, and you're worshiping him, and you're praying, and if you get to a real good place with him, you start singing in your prayer time, even if you don't even have a voice to sing. You are worshiping God, and you can just feel the tears of Abba that's just there protecting you and loving you. And it's a safe place for you to share your love that maybe you have never been safe before to share. You actually are releasing the same oxytocin and the other molecules in your body, and you're forming a bond with God, Jehovah, the Holy Spirit. And then when you meet your mate, God does expect you to not be so deep in love with him. His role in your life needs to change a little bit, because now he's giving you a little L. He's giving you a little Lord that he expects you to cleave with now, so that he can take his role and release his daughter into the arms of his beloved son, who he wants to keep you and provide for you and love you until death do us part. And that's why divorce hurts so badly, because it is not just an outside thing. It's not just splitting the kids and the pets and the house and the finances. It's some people have gotten divorced and already had a new person in their life, and the pain either hit them now or hit them 3 nows from now. And you know why? Because your body remembers the other person, and you have to break it. And it's not broken through sex, people of God. Sex is a good addition, but it's through the cleaving. It's through the intimacy. And that's why it can be made with God. It's through the intimacy that soul ties are actually formed. And one person can have a soul tie and the other person doesn't have to have one. Soul ties are not mutual. They're not consistent. I can be soul tied with something that's moved on and could care less about me. That's how powerful God has made us. So my question was, if a woman remains single, yet moves from one sexual relationship to another, what will be the impact on her? Put your answers up, if you will. Write them in your journal. Listen to the podcast throughout the week and begin to jot in your journals or somewhere in your phone so that it stays private. What has been the sexual impact on you as a male or female from going from one relationship to the other? I can tell you one thing, you do lose identity. I can tell you that multiple soul ties are formed. I can tell you another one, it makes you harder for you to trust one person when you move so consistently. I can tell you that it takes you longer to cleave with someone when you go from multiple partners. There's a great impact. And the most detrimental part is what you do to your soul. Let's go on to this next question. We're just closing up last week, and we're going to open up every week like this. When does it seem like it's just too much to hope that a relationship with a man or a woman could really work out without sex being part of the picture? What effect does the refusal to hope have on the relationships with you as a whole? How long does it take before you have sex with someone that you're newly dating or newly getting to know? How long does it take? Is there any hope on the inside of you that you have squashed? You've let go dormant because you think that the way to this relationship is sex. You think that you're going to keep him or her by sex. How long does it take before you start thinking I better start getting prepared because it's going to be time to have sex pretty soon? How long do you think it takes, and what would be the impact on you if you didn't do it? Because there's a lot of competition out there. We talked about it last week. What is it like if you decide to live a sexless single life and then the competitors are out there cleaning it up? Do you have enough trust and faith in God and love for yourself that I'm going to remain in this state that I've chosen to be in until he or she comes, because I refuse to have my soul trampled around in? I refuse to be twisted up in the soul ties and the sheets of other people. I refuse to lose hope that the God that I serve, that the God that loves me will not give me a mate who will love me before he sexes me. Don't even believe she said that, do you? Let me ask you this question. What would more romance in a relationship look like from your perspective? What would more look like? A lot of us want more romance, and I hear it 99% of the time from women, and I probably hear it 80% of the time from men. Men want romance as well. It doesn't mean that they expect the woman to romance them. I think the man appreciates his powerful position to take such a powerful woman and for her to become so delicate and vulnerable and sensitive to him by him exerting his control, not over her, but his control with her by seducing her into such a heavy, euphoric romance night or day or lifetime. What would more romance in your relationship look like? What would it look like? What is the level of romance happening in your relationship now? And what would more look like? What is it that you want? Because you have to be clear of this. And this is a problem I run into with a lot of women. They want so much more, but when you ask them, they have no clue. And then when they're in my office with their spouses, they'll say, I need him to figure it out. Well, he's been trying to figure it out for 5 years and he's getting it wrong. So why don't we just take care of 5 years of trial and error? And why don't you just tell him, what would more romance look like? What do you want from him? More walks, more cuddle time, more movie nights? Would you like more weekends in bed together, a breakfast in bed together? What would it look like, sir? What would it look like, man? We have to communicate these things because we put a lot of pressure on our mates with them reading our minds. And you're going to destroy the love that could be so great by just assuming that it is their responsibility to read your mind. What would more romance in a relationship look like from your perspective? Single people, even if you are not in a relationship, what does romance look like? You need to know it, because when you get the excitement and the feelings that go through you when somebody's showing some interest in you and they're calling you and you see their number show up on the phone, and you try hard all day not to call them because you just want to know, do they want to talk to me? Do they want me? Or is this whole relationship based on me doing all the communication? And you see their number show up and you're just in awe, and you were getting ready to do 6 things and they ask you what you're doing. You say, nothing. What does more look like? Because you need to be able to recognize that and know what you want when you get it. And you also need to know when you're not. All right? All right. So we're going to go into the lesson on tonight, and we're going to ask that you take those notes and take the time to explore those, because those are very, very important to you. Very important to you to know. Stop not knowing what you want, but asking for more. Who can answer something like that? God Almighty, He can't even answer anything like that. So we're talking tonight about how sex becomes an addiction. I'm going to correct that when we get off of this live. I'll correct that spelling. But how sex becomes an addiction. And the subtitle is Successful, huh? Yeah, I bet you are. Successful in your ministry, successful in your business, but insecure in your life. Let's talk about that. It's important to us. All right, let's go. Where do I want to begin? How about this? How sex becomes an addiction. Well, it all begins with a cycle. Come on, say it with me. It all begins with a cycle. Like all addictions, it begins with a cycle. Let me talk to you about somebody really famous that you know. Do you remember how Madonna traded on her sexuality and made herself into a cultural icon? I remember Material Girl. Oh, I can't even remember all the names of the song. But Madonna was, she'd come out in her black lace, and men and women would all be just even if you weren't attracted to her or cared about her music, just the aura and the energy of sexuality that she would bring out there was amazing. And she took sexuality to a whole new dimension. Do you remember those days? In her story, her biographer notes that she could hold an audience of 80,000 people spellbound. Yet one of her former lovers claims privately Madonna was yet the most insecure woman he had ever known. She could have an audience of over 80,000 people spellbound, but in her private life, she was as insecure as any woman he had ever known. The Madonna, in her heart, he said, she remains at heart the little girl continually trying to win over her father, searching for love and acceptance, he would say. How does a woman so successful remain so young and insecure inside, like she's frozen at 15? Same thing for you brothers. Don't point at your wife. Don't point at your girlfriend. Don't say, yup, that was so and so and so. Come on. He's in there with you too. How are you so successful, so intelligent, speak so eloquently, can master so many trades, but cannot wield your power with the one who should mean the most to you? How is it that you can prepare for work and show up as Superman to save the day and come home and be this broken, powerless feeling? You're not powerless, but you feel so powerless and so insecure and so vulnerable when you get around this love of your life. Why is that? Why? It's the cycle. It's the cycle. Successful people in the business marketplace, ministry, church marketplace, doesn't mean they're successful in their personal life. And when I did the 30-day detox in January 2019, The Self Matters, I came to a new level of realization of myself, that I had an A+ professional life. But there were some things in my personal life that I just needed to start spending more time with, paying more attention to, because I needed another level of personal development for where I wanted to go in the business marketplace. And if I did not pay attention to those places in my personal life, I was only going to go so far in my professional life, because at some point they meet at the crossroad together. So when I did the assessment that we had in the Self Matters, when I completed, I said, I got an A plus in my professional life. And the Holy Spirit said, now answer those same questions with your personal life. And as I went down, I was like, D, maybe even an F. Because some of us jump so hard into our work. We become so successful in our work just to avoid the personal life, just to avoid the home life, the pain, the trauma, the absence of a father, or the abuse of a father or mother. So how does someone be so successful, remain so young and insecure inside, like he or she is frozen at 15? It's the cycle of exchange. It's the cycle of exchange. Come on, come with me in this journey. Let's keep going. Madonna is a picture with large emotional strength when she's on that stage. She has so much going on for her in the eye of the public, but in her private time, she would barely be able to keep a man. It's a familiar cycle, the easiest pattern in the world to follow. A girl realizes she has something a guy is desperate for. And if she trades something sexual with a guy, he gives some of his emotional validation and sense of worth she is equally desperate for. Let me read this again. Madonna is a picture written large on the emotional bargain that women strike with their sexuality. It's a familiar cycle. Come on, somebody put cycle. It's a familiar cycle. The easiest pattern in the world to follow. A girl realizes, or a guy realizes, he or she has something that the opposite sex wants desperately. And for that, he or she trades something sexual with the opposite sex, or maybe the same sex, in order to get the emotional validation that they need from mommy or daddy issues. It brings them such a sense of worth that this individual who has this abandonment, this rejection that they're dealing with, it gives them such an equal feeling only during that moment that they are willing to trade their sexuality and the detriment to their soul over and over and over. How does sex become an addiction? Because you're feeding something else through sex. You're feeding something else through sex. It works the same way with food. Maybe you're in a marriage and you're not getting what you need out of that marriage. That happens a lot more than I wish. And you are eating and eating and eating. There's a joke, you can probably tell a little bit about my personality online. I'm very straightforward. I try very hard to be as diplomatic as I can, but this is the way God has given me ministry, and he uses me in my own transparency to heal and deliver people from all over the place. And when I was out with my girls one night, they were saying, God, why is she eating and ordering so much? I said, she's having sex. And they were like, what? I said, yeah, she's having sex. He's not getting any. But every time she goes for the third dessert, every time we have food and we eat and then we stop somewhere else and eat, or then I want to stop and the other one want to stop, you're eating for sex. Sex fills a void of mommy and daddy being missing, the trauma of the pain. You could have sex, you could smoke some weed, you can go get drunk, you can go and eat, you can go and gamble. I studied the Gamblers Anonymous, and do you know that it has nothing to do with money? It's the euphoric feeling that they have. And that euphoric feeling, again, releases molecules in their bodies that makes them feel good. They gamble for the high. It has nothing to do with the money. They can care less, honestly, whether they win or lose. But the thought of winning doubles the release of chemicals in their body, and it's giving them a sense of high. So the addiction isn't to gambling. Listen to me. The addiction is to feelings that they have in their body, releasing chemicals when they gamble, when they eat, when they have sex. So They're not cheating on you. They're cheating on themselves. They're not eating and becoming out of shape, and they heard you say how important their posture and their beauty is to you. They're doing it to themselves. They are in pain, and they found something that makes them feel good. Do you know the chemicals? It's proven that the chemicals that are in foods nowadays adds to the chemicals in our body. And a lot of people dance when they start eating. Some people start singing. They start whistling. They're sitting at the table and you're looking at them. All you're doing is eating. But it's chemicals that's being put in the food, that's being put in our body, and it's causing these happy sensations in us because the manufacturers want us to eat more. And that's when things become an addiction. It's because it makes me feel good, even if it's cost me my sexuality, even if it's cost me my soul, even if it's cost me my faith, even if it's cost me my marriage, my friends and my family, because I'm on the streets looking for drugs. I'm gambling everything before I even get it. And I'm in the house stealing things and selling it. It's not the thing that they're addiction to. Addicts can change addictions, as long as the addiction feeds the chemicals in their body and release the chemicals in their body so they can feel good, because they feel that poorly most of the time. Come on, let's keep going. Am I talking to you tonight? Let me know if I'm talking to you tonight. It's a familiar cycle. The easiest pattern in the world to follow is when a guy or a girl realizes that they have something that can get them the love and the validation that they need, especially for a young girl that's looking for daddy's love, or a young guy that's looking for mama's love. They will trade their heart, their sexual organs, and their soul to be validated by the gender of the parent who abandoned them. Come on, y'all. This is good stuff. Only both parties lose out. Both parties lose out. Their respective need grows, and the hole of insecurity gets larger. Can I rewind that? Both parties lose. Why? Their respective needs grow. The hole of insecurity gets larger. In a sexual encounter, it's really the ultimate orgasm that a woman is after. She operates completely different than a man. Completely different than a man. I would tell y'all some stuff, but I don't think my family and all are ready for y'all to hear what I wanted to be when I was younger. So I'm going to keep moving until we reach that level of intimacy here online together. But in a sexual encounter, it is really the ultimate orgasm that a woman is after. Come on, I see them hands going up. Come on, Dejan. It's really the orgasm that she's after. What hooks her is the feeling of being loved, wanted, valued in the warm embrace of some man's arms. Remember last week we talked about a safe man? That the person you are with may be in love with someone else, but you are the safe man that came to rescue them because they could not take another chance with another lover, or they could not have the lover they wanted, or whatever the case that may go. We trade so much of ourselves to get what we think we're going to get. But the problem becomes when we no longer can get the resource to feed our addictions. Oh, it's so important. It's so important. Let me read it again. What hooks her is the feeling, not of the orgasm even. What hooks her is the feeling of being loved. She wants to be wanted. She wants to be loved. She wants to be valued. And she's connected and wired to be loved and wanted and valued in the warm embrace of a man. And nothing feels as good as being in the arms of a man. It just does something to a woman that literally makes her feel like a little girl. Y'all start putting your arm around her a little bit more. You need her to shut her mouth and calm herself and gather herself and get herself together. Let her feel your arm around her. You may not have much in your mouth to argue back and forth with her on, and I hope you don't. You may not have the time to go tit for tat with her, but if you can put your arm around her, you will just turn her into daddy's little girl. And it's all right for her to be daddy's little girl with you. Don't be so macho that you leave room for somebody else to do it. We do a lot of hugging in church. Come on now. Don't have half these folks rushing to church because they really just want to get a hug from so-and-so because they're not getting them at home because there's no one there, or there's a mate who is holding emotional and sexual support of their mate because they're trying to get them to change. They're trying to get their attention. You're not going to get their attention. You're going to push them out for them to find it. That's what we as human beings do. God gave us a mind to survive. So if we don't get what we need at home, we're going to find it somewhere else, even if we don't intentionally look for it. When we feel it, it's going to feel good. And it could be the opposite sex, the same sex. It could be food, could be gambling. It could be some sick, insane things. You would be surprised how grotesque the human nature can go. Come on, let's keep going. This can get to be a kind of relational cocaine. This cycle can get to be a kind of relational cocaine. Come on, I see y'all out there. I'm reading some of your posts here on Facebook. A relational cocaine. I was going to put that in the title tonight, but I didn't know if they would let me post cocaine up there. But this is how real I wanted this to get to you. You know, you talk about the crack addict, but you the what addict? Let's put a blank in front of yours, because what is your cocaine? Pornography. But you talk about the crack addict affects the same side of the brain, affects the same pleasure zones in the brain. Pornography, heroin. So who's the addict now? A woman gets to a place where she just can't turn down the possibility of the sexual, emotional stroke that being with a man gives her. She can't turn it down. So now it's becoming a cycle. After a cycle, it becomes an addiction. Wouldn't you rather it be with you? Help your significant other break patterns and cycles in their lives. God set it up that we have these molecules in our body that are on our side. And when you make her feel like she's the most important woman in the world, let me tell you, I'm going to tell you one of my struggles. And I hope my family, my armor bearers are up for this one. Let me tell you, I got one of them rolling their eyes right now. They scared. One of my things was, when I was out in the world before Christ, I never dated a married man. Because to me, married men were the most insensitive, cheapest lovers you could ever want to meet with. That just outworked for me. It was all about them. They knew what they had at home, whether they were happy with it or not, they were going back there. So married men, never my thing. Couldn't get me to sleep with a married man. Sorry, just ain't happening. And so I would always date men who had a lot of women. You know why? Because men who had a lot of women were charmers. They would sweet talk you, and they would make you feel like you were the only woman in their life if it was only for an hour on a Tuesday once a week. And that was enough for me because I was independent. You know, I had my education going. I had my career going. And then when I was learning to practice in Christianity, I had my faith working for me. So I had to go to church 2 times, 3 times a week. I was good with that. And because I had decided that if I can't beat him, I'm going to join him, I was trying to be like a dude and bounce in and out like he did, not knowing that women are not connected for that. It would never work for us. It just brings more interior damage to us. I decided that whenever I tried these monogamous relationships, it just wasn't enough for me because it just seemed like the attention and the affection and the level of sex and the levels you could take each other on sexually wasn't the same as it was with the other stuff going on. Y'all get what I'm saying? It may not sound right, but you know, God has released me to be transparent. He uses me to heal and deliver. And some people can't take it. Some people have literally said, I cannot listen to that woman with her level of transparency. And I respect you, but I know you go back and listen with nobody around. And that's why I do this, because I need to get you free. What you can't confess to, you can be addicted to. And we've got to break addictions and patterns. Addictions and patterns end up being cycles in our life. How does sex become an addiction? It all begins with a cycle. I'm giving you something and you're giving me something. That's what an addiction is all about. And addictions are very selfish. They're always full of lust, and it's always based on that individual. So even though the dealer's getting money, The prostitute's getting money. The guy that you're sleeping with, or girl that you're sleeping with, is getting the satisfaction that you call them once or 2 or 3 times a week, right? So it looks like a trade-off. But to the addicted, I'm getting what I need. It's very selfish. I'm getting the feeling that I need on the inside. And it can get to the point that I don't really care how I get it. Oh, how does sex become an addiction? It all begins with a cycle. Come on. But this is a relational cocaine. It's a relational cocaine. It's when you get to a place where you cannot turn down the possibility. So what if they want a little sex? I will trade this off just for the feeling that I get in his arms, the feeling that I get of being emotionally stroked and affirmed and validated. Sometimes just told that I'm smart or I'm beautiful. And you can be as dumb as a doorbell that don't work. And if he tells you you're smart, it's going to send that woman to the moon and back. He can get what he wants from her. Understand your masculinity and work it. You have the power to take that queen and bring her down to a little girl vulnerable in your arms. You have that. Even when she knows ahead of time she will hate herself in the morning. This is where the bondage begins. This is the bondage of sexual addiction. Being alone or being without a significant other can be the hardest thought in the world. Did you hear me? Pause the video, girl. What do you mean it can be the hardest thought? It's almost impossible to live because the thought of being alone or being without a compatible partner, even if it's just sexual compatibility, can be the hardest thought in the world. Some make statements like, no, I'd rather not. Feels like the ticket to the backside of the desert. So I'm going to give in every time. And it all begins with the cycle of that simple exchange. I'll give you some of my body in exchange for the feeling of being loved. That's why little girls, young girls are running around here so loose with their sexuality, not understanding that you can get bacteria in your private areas that will knead into your tissues and hide like a stealther in there for years and come out as cervical cancer. Because you lived so promiscuously as a child, because to you, giving of your body was nothing. You needed the hug of a father, no matter who it came through. You needed the validation of your father, no matter who stood in the role and did it for him. You needed to feel as a princess from your father, no matter who stood in that role to you. You exchanged your life of sexuality to be validated by a man, and sometimes even different than that. It all begins with a cycle. Come on, someone, put it up there. So what's the RX? What's the prescription? Here's the Soul RX. Now here's the irony. The deeper a woman gets into the almost compulsive need for the sexual validation of a man, and the more she needs to be alone. That's your prescription. Let me read it again to you. The deeper a woman gets into the almost compulsive, brothers, this is for you too. The deeper you get into the almost compulsive need for sexual validation, here's the prescription, the more you need to be alone. And you need to learn to be okay with being alone. Come on, we can't trust you on one business trip. We can't trust you with one semester in college. We can't trust you with one church retreat. We can't trust you to go out for the night on the town because you need this validation so badly. We can't even trust you at the job. I work in corporate America, and you'd be surprised what a lot of folks do with the bathrooms in the parking lots, in the training rooms in corporate America. And these people come out with their high degrees and their fancy suits, and everybody knew what was going down in some of these offices. How do you break that addiction? We talked about it when I opened. You have to cleave to something else. You have to cause molecules to be released in your body to break the former cleave to initiate a new cleave. And when you initiate a new cleave, you literally break the molecules formed in the first cleaving. That stuff is so deep. That's why I love the Lord. That's why I love being a Christian. That's why I love studying his word, because his word is so much deeper than a religious book, y'all. You got to pick up that book and see him. He's an archaeologist. He's a chemist. He's a scientist. He's got so much stuff in that word. I'm telling you, at the end of everybody's path, there is God. He's in it. He's in it. There's no vial that God can't show up in. You can't put him in a box, in a bag, or in a tube. Nothing can hold him. He doesn't exist. He can come right through matter. He can heal, set free, and deliver. He's done it for me multiple times. And I don't believe he's done with me yet, because I'm still asking him for deeper revelation. Purge me with hyssop a little bit more. Remove another layer of my defenses and my fears. And be strategic, Father, in how you open me up through my healing and deliverances, that I may save and set free and share without the fear of being vulnerable to people who may not care or know me at all. Oh, there's nothing like serving God. He's a wonderful, wonderful God. You need to learn to be alone. Prescription number 1. And number 2, you need to be okay with being alone. Oh, that's the hardest thought in the world. But it's not impossible to do. It's hard. Especially for the sexually compulsive. You need to be alone, and you need to be okay with being alone, which is often a conclusion that he or she slowly comes to as they get more connected to God and to people who love you. All of you, and not just your body. So I find myself in conversations with women often struggling with what you can only call an addiction. I invite him or her to dry out from the world of men, to dry out from the world of sexuality, especially the world of alcohol and sex. I described to some of the women, especially the young women, what celibacy is and what it can actually do for you, and that nothing else can really do what celibacy can do for you. I know it sounds like a prison sentence, especially from where a lot of us are coming from. But in reality, it's a get out of jail free card. Because if you know anything about addictions, you are living in jail. Sexual addictions or any other addictions, it is a jail. And this is your ticket out. It's exactly like the picture Jesus painted. Enter through the narrow gate, he said, even though it's harder and there aren't many people lined up in front of this gate, but that narrow gate opens up on the other side to a better life, to the wide, expansive place with 1,000 possibilities of really being loved. And the broad gate, that's where the crowd is. That's where the billboards are of the VIP stations. And that's where the cosmopolitan magazines are at the checkout aisles, telling you how to seduce a man in 10 minutes and how to get a lover in your bed and for your life in 10 seconds. And all the laughter of this lifetime that we're living, and all the partying is going on, and it will go on forever. But the broad gate actually leads to a narrow place, tight and constructed, with precision and precious few choices remaining, which is the very essence of being in the grip of an addiction. Only that one thing matters for the addicted, and he or she will exchange their life and yours too to have it. In his book, Sex God, it's a book called Sex God, and the author is Rob Bell. He explains addiction as the biblical progression of lust. Addiction, the biblical progression of lust. Lust deadens us on the inside. You are numb. I have a lot of people tell me, I'm numb. That's because you've been deadened on the inside. Deaden. Lust deadens us on the inside. Even if you are the victim to a perpetrator who used you for their lust, it deadens us on the inside. We lose the ability to feel things like we used to. This loss of sensitivity and true enjoyment then leads us to what the Bible calls being given over to our sexuality. Let me read it again. Lust deadens us on the inside. In the book Sex God, written by Rob Bell, he explains that addiction as the biblical progression of lust. We lose the ability to feel things like we used to. This loss of sensitivity and true enjoyment then leads to what the Bible calls being given over to sensuality. Our appetites become insatiable, whether it's food, sex, shopping, whatever. What was supposed to fill the hole within us didn't. Listen to this part. It betrayed us. Now it owns us. And it always leaves us wanting more. Tell me that's not some good stuff right there. Always leaves us wanting more. The need to reclaim, and my time is almost up. A woman waits to talk with me after I finish speaking at one of the women's conferences that I have spoken with in the past, and she seems unusually patient, letting everyone else go in front of her. I find this woman at every women's conference that I've been at. She's there. Different name, different age, different size, different color, different shape, different path in life. But I find her at every conference, and I can spot her waiting and looking at other book tables, or just kind of letting everybody go in front of her when she could have been up in front of me already. She's waiting because something she has to share is very, very private and personal and important to her. She's usually a very patient person, letting everyone else go in front of her as she's saving something for my ears alone. She begins by telling me how her life recently has taken such a good turn. In her own words, she says she has found faith for the first time. She smiles when she tells me this. A relationship with God is something she ran away from for many years, but no more. Life is opening up on the inside of her, and she is ecstatic. What she sees in this new light is how much she keeps herself, especially from men, at arm's length, and also other people, only so close and no closer. And this is troubling to her. She pours out her story to me. She lost her father when she was 10 years old. They were in a car accident together, and she alone survived. She remembers the doctor and her mother coming to her hospital bedside to tell her that her father had died in the same accident she survived. She said she could feel a hole as big as her dad himself opening up on the inside of her. The first guy to pay her some attention was her junior in her geography class. She was a freshman. He had shoulders. She could remember this. He had shoulders like two big gold posts. And he had begun to single her out. She felt better than she had for a long time. As spring moved into summer, she gave into his persistent demand for sex. She didn't want to lose him or the feeling of specialness he gave her. But within weeks, he had picked up with another girl. He moved through her friends like he was sampling a box of chocolates. A year or so later, he admitted that her actual appeal to him had been her innocence. The appeal that she had to him was her innocence. That is what attracted him to her. The very thing she was willing to give up to keep him. And that was the very thing that caused her to lose him. Are y'all hearing me? Where are your nieces at? Where are your daughters at? Why aren't they on here tonight? These numbers should be tripled. You need to be liking and sharing. Every 5 minutes, share it again. Make sure you like it. Don't just comment, like it. Share it with the young women. You young men are on here. Share it with the young women that you've dated and you broke up with, and you know they need to hear this message. Share it with your daughters, your nieces, your nephews. Share it. This is an issue that we allow school to teach us about, and they teach us in their doctrine. We leave it to not being taught in the households, and we allow too many of our children to experiment with such a powerful thing as our sexuality. It has to be talked about. It has to be taught. Please like, please share. She remembers everything about him, but she couldn't get over the fact that the very thing he liked about her was the very thing she couldn't wait to give away. her innocence. Where did you go from this relationship is what was asked to her. What I heard knotted up my insides. She had moved from this slap in the face to a string of guys, one after the other, for the next 7 years of her life. What difference does it make to me now? She reasoned. Her hunger for a guy was really for the validation and the emotional support that she needed from her father. They were just there to fill a void in the first place. Why do I care whether I get love back in return? Which of these guys treated you well? Have you ever known what it feels like to be really cared for by a man since your father died? Was one of the questions that I asked her in that line. A little trail of tears slid down her cheek. A wordless, resounding no came from her soul. Many of us give away something precious before we know what we even have. How many of us have done that? No one in our life, no one in our lives, our family, our support system, our teachers, alert us to the vulnerability. No one values our sexuality enough to struggle for its protection for us. Or perhaps we do not allow ourselves to hear someone who wants to help. What are your thoughts about that? Who can you look back and spoke to you about saving your sexuality, to protect your sexuality, that how important your sexuality is and how you're thrown away now is going to make a great difference to you and your possible future when you get there? Who can you think of that was there enough to protect you enough to care, even if they said something to you, even if they said something hurtful to you? That was the best way that they could tell you not to go that way. And then why don't you also journal while you're there? Who was it also, now that you look back, should have told you about your sexuality, should have had the sex talk with you, should have guarded and protected your sexuality until you were mature enough to know what you had? Who let you down? Write them down and offer yourself forgiveness. You don't have to offer them forgiveness. Offer yourself forgiveness, because deep inside of you, you still hold them in contempt and you've got them tied up in a lawsuit in heaven. Like clear, at the beginning of this teaching we talked about, many of us found that early feelings of sexual pleasure that seemed mildly illicit mutated into the fear of leaving or of being left. Now, though, we are older and maybe married, the thrill is gone. That's why last week we said, I hate sex, because you gave it away so much and you use it to get what you want, that now that you're married, you don't have to use it to get anything you want. You pretty much have what you were giving sex away for. So now you have no purpose for sex. And it becomes egregious to you. You hate it because you still connect sex with that. Ask God tonight. Ask him to heal you and deliver you from all of the past thinking, not even your sexual partners. We're going to go there, but don't even do that. From the way you see sex, the way you value sex, the way sex is in your mind, what you have to think about in order to have sex or to fake sex or to even reach that place of climax. What is it that you have to reach in your mind to do it because of the places you've allowed your soul to go? Because your soul doesn't forget. And when you go to be intimate with somebody pure and holy who desires you and wants you and only you, your mind is jacked up and you can't go to that place with him or with her. Now that she is older and married, the thrill is gone. Perhaps more accurately, the passion got diluted like a sexual dam that burst and spread water an inch deep over a wide field when it was meant to be a powerful river to nurture and sustain us for a lifetime with that individual. For almost any woman who looks back over the debris of her sexual past, there is a measure of loss and even regret. So much she wishes she could get a retake, a redo, or even an undo. The voice of one woman in her late 20s continues to haunt me to this day. In wisdom beyond her years, she said, I wish I hadn't given so much of myself. I feel that some of my experiences thinned my soul. Sex in the soul. And such, in effect, takes time to undo. This thinning of the soul, of our capacity to enter into life and relationship with all that we are, is perhaps the greatest loss of all. I focus on the genuine sense of loss that goes with the territory of sexual bonds made and broken outside the parameters of marriage. For strangely enough, grief is what tells you that you were meant for more. The grief that you're feeling from a broken heart over and over again is the warning that God has given us in our body that's telling us you were meant for more. God made your body, your soul, to be inextricably joined. Grief reminds you that you are human and that after all is said and done, you still have not managed, thank God, to amputate your heart. The first step to reclaiming anything of value is to be able to name the pain. Come on, write it down. The first step to reclaiming anything, the first step into reclaiming anything of value is to be able to name the pain. In this grief, we are not merely victims. No, our grief is the result of choices we have made. Let me say it to you once again, please. The first step to reclaiming anything of value is to be able to name the pain. In this grief, we are not merely victims. You're not only a victim. No, your grief is the result of your choices made. Perhaps, though, we are ready for someone to connect the emotional dots with us, to see our longing for an enduring relationship as something that is rightfully ours, something meant to be. The pain has a meaning. Come on, y'all, post it. The pain has a meaning. It's talking to you. Perhaps, despite all the hype, to the contrary, we actually long for someone to remind us of the beauty and passion and tender strength that are possible in a relationship with a man or a woman. A good man for a woman, perhaps we are ready to let God do what only He can do, which is to restore us from the inside out. Is anybody looking to be restored from the inside out? Where are you at? Are you looking? Well, if there's anything you want to say, you can post it on the screen tonight. I will be answering your questions. May go late into the night, but I'm here to answer your questions. I am Suzanne Howard, Apostle Suzanne Howard, your personal development coach and counselor. We are taking a journey. I invited you on Sex in the Soul. We will be meeting every Sunday at 8 p.m. and I will be bringing you Solutions weekday. Please, again, make sure you like this post. Make sure you share it, please. Subscribe to YouTube. Send up some hearts of love. The encouragement is so necessary. You cannot imagine the warfare that people go through to bring you such high potency and high level of healing and deliverance for your soul. You cannot imagine the warfare that comes at our lives. And, you know, the enemy is no respecter of person either. And he will use anybody from the sweetest saint to the most ugliest person in the world to come up against you. And it's a lot when you care enough to first obey your commission, and second, to love the people, to want them free enough to be used as an example yourself. Continue to pray, continue to like, continue to share. Remember, we're on Apple iTunes, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Spotify, and a few others that I'm sure they'll post up tonight. Thank you, Dejan. I love you, baby. Miss you too. So as I close tonight, I want to, again, remind you, if you want to Cash App, anything from $1 to $1 million, it means a lot. And it's Suzanne M. Howard. Cash App is $ Suzanne M. Howard. Or you can go to my website, www.suzannemhoward.com. All the ways to give is also on there. I just appreciate the love and the support. If you like this type of material coming your way, continue to give. I'm getting certified more and more and more from your giving. The more you give, the more training I get, the more I bring to you. The more you give, the more training I get, the more healing and deliverance I bring to you. So your dollars are definitely being used to restore a kingdom that needs to know its king. So before I close with my affirmation scripture, I just want to read this to you. You are meant to be loved and valued and cherished for the rest of your life. by someone whose face lights up when they see you. Whether you marry or not, strength and respect is your God-given birthright. You can find the door out of destructive relationships with men or women and recover the parts of your heart and soul you may feel you've lost. It is entirely possible. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. God bless you and good night. Please hit like on this Facebook post. Please send up hearts on Periscope. Please subscribe on YouTube and share. I know there's some broken people that you love and care about that can benefit from this. Send it in, even in their messenger, if you don't put it on their timeline, so that they can see the sensitivity to this and that you care for their soul. God bless you. I love you all. See you sometime during the week, and good night.